All right.
Recording is on.
Awesome. So
I think we're ready to launch.
Okay, so let them in.
Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, good luck.
Good morning, everyone. This is Lars Fransen. I am the coordinator or director for the music theory and ear training program at Nyack College. Some of you may know me or know Carlos or have heard about us, which is all great. I can't actually see you guys. I can see Carlos, but I can't see everyone. I'll try to see if I can switch to gallery view. Okay, a whole bunch of students came up now. It's very good. Hello, everyone. I'm actually speaking from downtown Manhattan, from the campus. My wife Christina and I are the two only faculty members in the music department who are on campus, and we're going to be here, and hopefully at some point we will all be meeting up in person, safely distanced from one another and with masks and everything, and it's all going to be good. Can you all see everyone? If you switch to, if you're on your phone, it's a little harder. If you're on an iPad or something like that, or computer, if you switch to gallery mode, you can pretty much see everyone who's attending this meeting. I recommend doing that. And you can see my, if you have the same view as I have, you can see my very good friend and colleague and mentoree, Carlos Cuestas, who is the co-teacher for this course. I'm going to outline just a few things about what we do and what literature and materials, abbreviated L&M, what that is all about. It is a new course. I mean, that means we have taught it for 2 semesters. This is the 3rd semester that we are teaching this course. And it is the combination of music history and music theory and listening skills and everything in between that are combined into one course. So literature and materials of music. The literature part is obviously what we are reading together, what we are exploring electronically by going on YouTube and listening to different sources of information. And so that's the literature part. And the materials part is the actual teaching of musical notation, how music is communicated through notation and other means. And by combining these things, we're ensuring that there's a great deal of cohesion between music history and music skills. You know, traditionally you would sit in at least 2 or 3 different classes to get this sort of information, and then it's up to the students themselves to sort of make sense of all this information that we are presenting you with in 3 different classes. That's often very difficult to do. And traditionally in other schools, what you would be doing is to start somewhere in the distant past. History is something that we think of as something that took place in the past. But the fact is that we're all part of history. We're all part of this continuum, and we live right now. So what we've done at Nyack College is that we've taken a different tack on this whole historical aspect by starting in the present day. So we're going to be starting with discussions that pertain to people living in the 21st century, as we all do, by taking some of the most pressing issues, of which music is sort of a reflection. The idea of music being a mirror of society is something that is quite important to the way that we have approached this, this topic. We think of all art really and culture as being, first of all, part of a continuum that is not just something that took place in the past, but really something that is ongoing and that will be part of the future as well. We may think of ourselves as being the pinnacle of some development that naturally led up to us. And while that's a very flattering view of ourselves and of culture, it's probably not the way it happens. And you will know that one day, if you don't already know it, when you have children. They will tell you exactly how far behind the curve that you really are. So that's a nice wake-up call, and you will have it too, my friends, if you're young enough. right now. We've all been there, and it's a sobering experience to have children. I can tell you that. It's also a sobering experience to teach, in fact. Not because we're regarding you as children. You're not at all. You are technically adults, and we're going to treat you like that. You're going to take part in this discussion any bit as much as Carlos and I will be taking part in the discussion. We're not here to tell you how culture developed and how history has sort of progressed or whatever. We're here to create a forum where we can all explore this together, and where your views and your opinions, your music, the way you listen, is just as important. In fact, it's more important in some ways than the things that we can come up with ourselves. So starting in the 21st century and then working our way backwards, that's the tack that we've taken at Nyack College. I don't know of any other school that does it that way. I mean, and the obvious problem with that method is that the skill set that goes along with being a beginning student in a college does not really match the complexity of the 21st century. So that's one issue that we try to deal with in various ways. So it's going to feel maybe a little bit as if the historical topics are going to be present and vibrant, and some that we all know because we're reading about it every day. We're living it, in fact, every day. We're not just reading about it, we're living it every day. And the skill set going along with that has to be developed at the same time. So that's going to be quite a long time where we're going to be doing, let's say, beginning theory and advanced musicology. Musicology is basically the study of music history. But as I said, music history is something that takes place right now. And I think it would be a good place right now for me to to stop talking and introduce my co-teacher, Carlos Cuestas, and let him speak for a little bit. I want to give you just a little introduction to my friend Carlos. I've known Carlos since he was about 13 or 14. He was a student of mine. Actually, he was a student of mine way back when. And Carlos grew up in Colombia and in New York City jointly, and he can tell you about that. But growing up in two different places made him quite multicultural just by virtue of where he grew up. And as you can probably hear from me, I'm not American. I was born in Denmark many moons ago. And so I grew up as a teenager in Europe. And then I moved to London in my 20s. And I've been living in New York for the past 30 years, which is, of course, impressive for a guy who's only 35, right? Say right. It's a joke. And but one I would like to believe to be true. I've been 35 for quite a few years at this point. So Carlos is a brilliant guitarist. As a matter of fact, I learned a lot more from him as a student than he did from me, I think. And which is the greatest way to teach, in fact, that you learn more as a teacher, and that's always been my case. Because I'm very interested in learning. I think I want to keep myself sort of fresh by learning from my students and from people who've got something to say. And you should always feel that your opinion is at least as valid as mine. So that's the tagline. So after having having a great career as a classical guitarist, Carlos went on to the, long story short, went on to the graduate center of the City University of New York, and where he's just finished his PhD in ethnomusicology. So he's a highly trained musician and somebody with a big view on where the world is and where it's heading and where it's been in the past. And he's an unexhaustible source of information and somebody I really trust. Here's Carlos for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars. That's one of the nicest introductions I've ever had, ever. So students take note. It's very nice to see everybody. I'm broadcasting from my apartment in New York. Hopefully, as Dr. Franson said, we will be together in whatever way is possible. Downtown, maybe even before the semester ends. Yeah, so I guess a little bit of sort of personal stuff. As Lars intimated, I am also not born in this country. I'm Colombian born, and I did study classical guitar for quite a long time. To this, I mean, I still do. I've been touring even right before the pandemic hit. I was supposed to go to Japan to play, and Ireland, and I've also given several presentations in national conferences for ethnomusicology and anthropology. So what does that bring into the perspective of the classroom? I mean, what Dr. Franson and I have been talking for the past year is how to make music history relevant for music students. And that is actually quite difficult to achieve because, as you will discover, a lot of what you're going to start learning about are things that you haven't really heard before, right? So you've all heard about, I don't know, the staff and notation, but so what should you know how that came about? And the answer is, yeah, sure. But on the other hand, how does that relate to what we're living through today? I don't know everybody has their camera on, but does anyone here play classical music, grew up playing classical music in conservatory training? So just Leah for now. But that's not necessarily that's neither good nor bad. It's just something that culturally classical music seems to be the one taught for music education. What Lars and I are trying to do is to broaden the perspective that even though classical music, it's the standard, the tools that are going to allow us to understand everything else, it's not outside of society. It's not outside of time. In fact, it's very much in time. And up until even 1 month ago, a professor of mine at the graduate center had an article out, and it made the rounds and even made it to Fox News commentary about music theory, and someone whom you may or may not know in the future, Schenker and Schenkerian analysis. So this is happening now, right? And one of the big challenges is then how to make history relevant to you. Most of you look really young. You probably just got out of high school not long ago. And history for you was learning a bunch of dates and answering a lot of true and false questions. Am I correct in that assumption? You can shake your head, but either way. And in that regard, what I can tell you is that is the furthest take on history, that like the least exciting one. History will allow you to critically think about what's happening today, and that's why we're starting today. We're going to be talking about a little bit of what has happened in the past summer with all the social unrest, what's happened in the past year or so in regards of racial disparities and gender inequality. We will talk about the relationship that has with music. And as we start having those discussions, your critical thinking is starting to kick in. We're going to be reading, and that should not be surprising because not only because this is cool, guys, but one of the things that I want you guys to really, really feel and understand is that the positions, or the higher positions you are aspiring to, they're all achieved through reading and writing. They're not achieved through anything else. I mean, of course, performing, that's another thing. But if you are not a good thinker, if you are not a good writer, if you do not feed your critical thinking, things are going to look very, very difficult. And I speak from experience. So we're going to talk about that later. So anyway, we'll tie the cultural issues of history into our learning at every stage of the game. So when we talk about the 15th century, we're going to talk about what we know about what these folks were going through in order for the music to sound the way it sounded, just like we do today. So I want to stop talking about that right now, but because I think, Lars, if you agree, like it would be nice for all the students to go around and introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly where I was going to go next. I think let's get an introduction. Yeah, let's see if we can do it just by somebody unmuting their microphone and introduce themselves, please. I'm going to
And
mute now.
and one thing, so whoever starts, and then tag somebody else
Yeah,
to take over. Yeah.
very good
Okay.
idea.
All right. So who's the first brave volunteer?
Hi, I'm Leah. I'll be brave. I'm majoring in music, and I'm excited to be here. I'm tagging Santina because she's the only one that I know.
Hi, my name is Santina Urias. I'm majoring in music therapy, and yeah, like Leah, I'm excited to be here. I'm all like nervous right now, but you guys, it's really interesting. I'm gonna tag Angelica.
Yes, Angelica. Hi, my name is Angelica. I'm majoring in gospel performance, and this is my first class. I'll tag SK.
That's me. I was like, who's SK? My name's Kevin. Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm excited to be here, a little nervous, but yeah. I'm gonna tag Preach, all caps.
Hey, how's everybody doing? My name is Chris, but everybody calls me Preach. This is my second semester here, and I'm excited for this class. And I guess I'll tag, let's see who we got here. I guess I'll tag Sarah.
I'm Sarah. My major is music and worship, and I'm excited to be here today with you guys. And I'm gonna tag Kiana. I think that's her name. Yeah.
Hi, yeah. Hi, my name's Kiana. My major is musical performance. I'm excited to start here at IAC, and this is my first class. I'm gonna tag, oh God, I believe Charles is the name.
Hi, hello. My name is Bell Charles, and then this is my first semester at NIAC, and then my major is music performance and jazz and classical, and then I guess I will tag which.
Who is next?
Which?
I think you went already. You said Preach?
You Preach, right?
Oh, Preach. Yeah.
He's already been on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, that's fine, Charles.
Talker?
How you doing? I'm Taj. This is my first semester here on majoring in music performance. I'm happy to be here.
And you tag?
Tag Candace.
It would also be helpful for just, I think, for Carlos and myself, if you can tell us what you're performing, if you're a singer or instrumentalist, and what you play and all that, because it gives us sort of an overview of what the interest might be. Let's say sometimes we have a whole class full of singers, and their field of interest tends to be different from instrumentalists. So please do that. But you're all doing great, and I know everyone is nervous. You know, you get used to it. If you do it many hours a day, you know, you'll just be another day at the office.
Eventually, we'll get there.
I think I was called. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, hi guys.
Okay. My name is Candace. I'm a freshman. This is my first class. I'm majoring in music and worship, and I am a singer. I think that's all. I don't know who hasn't gone yet, so.
We're missing Leah, Wooyoung, and there was someone P, like with letters. So
I'll tag Leah.
okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm Leah. This is my first class here at NIAC. I'm a music major and I really like Broadway. I'm really excited for Broadway to be back. And I'm a singer. I also play piano, but I mainly play piano by ear.
Thank you. Wooyoung, would you like to go?
Hello, my name is Ujong. I'm Korean. So my major is the instrumental performance. So I'm very excited. The first class in the Naya. Nice to meet you, everyone. Yeah.
Nice to meet you. And the last person, I believe it's, I mean, your square is P, but I wouldn't know your name if you can hear us. Oh, okay. So, oh yeah. Let me see if I can reach her through the chat. Okay. I guess we'll come back to P. Does anybody know her name, by the way? That would be helpful. But anyway, so
The problem, Carlos, was that she's not turning on her microphone.
Yeah, I know.
If you can hear this, we can see you. There's just one letter, P. I don't know what your name is really, but we can see you, but we can see that you also muted your microphone. It takes a bit of skill to get this right. As I said, you know, once you do this enough hours in a day, you sort of get used to it. But right now, it's a new medium for most of us. Okay, so Carlos, why don't we just, can you unmute? Yeah, exactly. Leah's got it right.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there. I guess the next order of business then, Lars, if you're okay, we should go over the syllabus.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So if that's okay, then I'll share my screen and we'll go over this. This is the long haul, so be patient. If you have questions, do unmute yourself and ask it. But I'm going to try to be brief, both Lars and I. And then before that, since this is the first semester, are you guys all okay accessing E360? Just by a show of hands? Yeah, we're good? Okay, awesome. Most of our communications are going to go through that, at least at the beginning, and then we'll see what the best format is. But for now, let's just centralize it. So let me get the syllabus up for you guys, and then we start doing that. Okay, one more guest coming in. Here we go. So hopefully you should all have had a chance to look at it beforehand, but if not, then that's all right. So let me share my screen. Okay, so here we go. Oh, sorry, I didn't do it on my system preferences. I need to do it there. Great. Zoom. Go to record the contest. Sorry. Let me see if that did it. Yeah, cool. So here we go. Can everybody see the screen? Hopefully, great. So don't worry about the red colors. The red colors are there as the most essential information that you should take out of this.
This is great colors.
Yeah, Lars, are you? I
can see my screen shows the syllabus, and it's all perfect.
Excellent.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm glad it's showing. So, as I said, dear students, fear not. This is a very friendly syllabus. It's just so that it's very extensive. We have to make it that long, but I try to locate everything into like a very condensed way for you to understand what it is. So we are supposed to meet synchronously the NA section, MLSA section, which is this one, every Monday and every Wednesday from 10:40 to 1 p.m. As we introduced ourselves, Dr. Franson and myself, we are the instructors for this for this class. We are more than welcome to your inquiries. We do have office hours by appointment only. I don't know, Lars, if you have a set schedule for office hours, by the way. But if you need to talk to us, shoot us an email and we'll schedule something. Is that everyone clear with that? Great. You're welcome to use them, by the way. Use them. That's important. So we are going to have one required text. This is going to be your textbook for the next 4.5 years. Sorry, 2.5 years. It's no more than $40, so it's actually a good investment, and it's one of the most trustworthy textbooks that Dr. Franson and I have ever come across. It's actually written by Dr. Franson's mentor himself, right? Steve Leitz, sorry. So get it, within the next couple of weeks if you can. That will be great. It's only theory. It covers only the theory section. All the history stuff, I will be posting individual articles so that you don't have to buy a whole textbook for history. Is that okay? Good? All right. So,
if I may just butt in here, I think that's exactly an entirely good point. That we are actually allowed. Yes, Steve Leitz, who wrote the textbook, was my teacher at the Eastman School of Music. He's the director of music theory at Juilliard at the moment. So I know him and I know the book very, very well. There is no textbook that can actually cover the way that we do things. So we have to be quite selective in the way that we're using the textbook, but it's quite allowed. It's actually encouraged, I think, for certain college programs to copy certain sections of the book. We just can't copy the whole book, obviously, right? Because there's some intellectual property matters there, and we need to be respectful to the people who put all this work into creating a book and the publishers who are selling them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, just the exercises. Like this book, I think has an exercise companion, but don't worry about that because we are right. We will provide the exercises for the students.
I think that's the safe way to do it, because of the unique structure of our course. The sequence is not going to match entirely, so we're going to pick and choose from week to week what we want you to pay special attention to. I mean, obviously you can read the book yourself, and if you have good questions, that's a great way to explore these things. But it's also a very, very important task for us to be sort of Toastmasters and be able to select the things that will fit into exactly what we're doing at this point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Does anybody have any questions at the moment? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Once, twice. All right. So moving on. There are millions of resources out there. We selected a short list for you guys. So if you look for additional help on further reading, I drew a lot of the content for the music history portions down the semester from Barbara Rosanna Hanning's book. You can see me highlighting it there. You don't have to buy it. You can access some of it through this particular website, which is the publisher. I have had students who have bought the electronic version of it, which is also remarkably inexpensive compared to the published version. So take a look at those resources. There are some more at the back of the page. So we'll see. If you have any questions, just let us know. All right. So moving on. This is the second red box is what Dr. Franson was saying, and it's kind of worth reading it again because this is your first class, so it's hard for you guys to fathom what literature materials is in a way. I mean, I'm not going to say revolutionary, but I want to say revolutionary. But it is a new gateway into music education. So I don't know if maybe some of you might like to read. Sorry, I can't see your names when I'm sharing my screen. So do you have a volunteer for the first paragraph in the red box?
Yes.
Any student can jump in and just because I can't see your names.
And certain students had questions about certain information, and I put that in the chat. I answered some of the questions. And I also, for you, by the way, as the additional instructor. But so if you kind of just check your chat, Carlos, and just reply to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but through screen share, my chat is like I don't have access to the chat.
Is it disabled? Okay, probably because you're using the window for the syllabus.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't have access to the screen share.
Maybe
I can do this. Hey, check this out. Hold on. Sorry, guys. This is trial by fire here. Here we go. Sorry about the mess on my desktop. And let me see. Participants. Okay, cool. And then chat. Where's my chat? This is a senior moment. I can't see my chat. So, yeah, I might have to log in a different chat. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, you're seeing the private messages. You see, this is like the perils of sharing the screen, Dr. Franson. Okay, cool. Let's go with participants. I'm going to call on a student to read the first red box. Is that okay with you, Dr. Franson?
Yes, it is.
Okay, how about Andy? Andy, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm here. The first paragraph. So?
Oh, awesome. Yes, please, of the red box. Let me just re-share the screen. Sorry, actually do this. There you go. Can you see it? Hold on. Here and here. There you go.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
Okay. Literature and materials for integrated music, history, theory, and performance course. The cornerstone of which is a comprehensive cultural and musical literacy course. Following this foundational course in the history and the technique of Western music, the students are led in a reverse chronological sequence to study the music of the 21st century, tracing the roots of each era back to the Renaissance.
Thank you very much, Andy. So what that means is that, as Dr. Franson said at the beginning, we're going to start thinking historically from the beginning, and then we retrace our steps. All right, another volunteer for, let me see, or maybe I'll just volunteer someone. How about Kevin Saravia? Are you there, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. So second paragraph, right at every juncture.
Okay. At every juncture, critical thinking and analytical skills are essential to our music teaching. The integrated and interdisciplinary model we use for our literature and materials classes requires the students to be able to understand and use the unbreakable connections of Western history, art, and the sciences. For example, improvising over a melody and harmonizing it by ear requires the ability to internally hear harmonies before they are played. Likewise, sight reading requires the ability to imagine specific notated sounds before they are played or sung. One might describe the acquisition of such skills as an applied science married to a learned analytical ability as much as inborn artistic talent.
Thank you, Kevin. Lars, I don't know if you would like to talk about this last second paragraph, which I think it's really foundational to our course.
Yeah, this is all, I mean, so a little bit about my own background. My mom was a pianist, and I started playing music when I was quite young, but I mean, I didn't really have, one thing I knew when I was a kid is that I didn't want to be like my mother or my parents in general. I mean, we all go through this sort of feeling of creating our identity when we're young. And so I started playing guitar in order not to play the piano. And I started playing by ear, and so I played improvised music. And, you know, at the time when I grew up, there was a whole wave of jazz fusion sort of going over Europe at that time. You know, the sort of merging of many different styles and all that. And it required, in fact, two things: that you had a really, really good ear, because this music was not easy, and it was quite complex in its language and all that. And two, that you had real chops. I mean, real world chops that that you could apply to this music, because again, it wasn't easy, and it was quite virtuosic in its performance. So I always regarded the ear skill, which is what many people, especially in our school, they sort of, many of our students are amazing musicians, and many of them, in fact, have won Grammy Awards and have been performing in, say, I think we're the school probably in the metropolitan area that has had the most of our students performing at the Metropolitan Opera. Maybe not in the traditional sense that many of them have not sung, although some have, but many of them have not sung Puccini or Verdi or whatever, or Mozart, but they have participated in other styles of music that are equally impressive and that requires superior ear skills. I mean, so we have taken that into account, obviously, in the way we've calibrated the way that we teach music history and theory, you know, and ear training. So what is, I think, maybe unique to NIAC School of Music. I'm sorry, we're dealing with things outside and people always knock on our door. Hey, hold a second. I'm teaching right now, so yeah, it's okay, right? Yeah, cool. All right, so you're still with me?
The real world, the real world.
It's the real world, yeah, and it's being recorded to YouTube. Cool. So the real world, yes. We have a number of people who grew up basically playing their own style of music, and that is the most important tool for learning is really your ear. I mean, you know, it's not the way that we can analyze things, because our ear is way ahead of time. I mean, it's almost like learning a language. I mean, the most efficient way of learning a language is to immerse yourself in that new language, if it's not English, right? I mean, you know, to expose yourself so you have no escape in a way. And that's how most of our students, they grow up being able to understand music by ear and by playing it, let's say, way ahead of their ability to formulate any theory about it or to speak about it in words. I mean, sometimes words are not necessary when you can just play it. And that's all well and good. We are addressing that head on at all junctures of our teaching here. But look at it this way. We all speak faster than we can write. And yet writing is the way that we present ourselves to people we don't know, or people with whom we can't meet in person. That's a poignant aspect of life right now, you know, because we all have to be able to navigate these sort of electronic media, for instance, which is a new skill for many of us. I mean, you know, and no matter, speaking of that, say writing, for instance, no matter if you want to work at Starbucks or at the United Nations, you have to present yourself in writing first. You don't just walk up even to a manager at Starbucks or any store and say, look, can I get an interview? It's not the way things are done anymore. You go online, so you have to navigate that. As an older person, that can be quite complicated in some ways, because there's a whole bunch of things that has to be in order so that we can do that efficiently. And then we have to present ourselves in writing. Just think about that. Writing is not just some, you know, some skill that you're writing a book or a textbook or a novel or something like that. Well, although that's obviously also part of writing, but writing skills is also being able to express ourselves really effectively in text, for instance, right? being able to convey a lot of information in a short span of time, and if you're on Twitter, in 160 characters. So being able to do that effectively is all part of the skill set that we are valuing here. That may not be the way that we've been told, you know, in other schools or in high school even, but that is a fact of life here. Because, look, I've had students in my theory classes who could play circles around most other musicians and who didn't know any of the names of the chords that they were using on a daily basis, and because they didn't need them. So marrying the two is really an important aspect for us, because let's say you're teaching, for instance, you have to establish a language by which you can communicate. And the level of artistic merit, meaning complexity or value of your music, shouldn't be determined by how much or how little, in fact, your fellow musicians can pick up by ear. Because if you don't have the kind of ear skills that some of our better students have, then you're going to deal with music that could have been a lot better had they had the ear of so-and-so that we've all taught, and all who are at our faculty here. We've got famous musicians who are really, you know, close to genius level, you know, and they're very willing to share their skills. And the ability to break this stuff down and teach it sort of week by week is one of the things that I think we've become quite good at here, you know, starting and acknowledging that the ear is the most important tool. Got to cut out now.
Hello. We might have lost Lars for a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so let me just take it from there, and then just to also move along with the conversation. The whole point that we're trying to make is that we have identified as professional musicians what were the skill sets that we sort of lacked as we were coming up as professional musicians, and then give them to you. Does that make sense? We are trying to sort of like give you guys everything you may need to head into the professional world. Not with the promise that you will win a Grammy or that you will be the next most sought after gospel celebrity. School's not really for that, though you do make those kinds of connections here, especially with the faculty that we have. But the promise is that you will be a competent professional that can thrive under pressure, meet deadlines, and be eloquent. So, and obviously listen to music and identify stuff. But one of the key things that I think this paragraph says that what you're going to be start understanding is that if you want to harmonize, a lot of singers here are really want to harmonize when they go to their choir. So how does that happen? Well, you're gonna learn that. A lot of folks here who like to compose music but only do it by ear and would like to have it written out so that modern musicians can join, that's what you're going to learn here, right? So it's not only about reading and writing emails in a very eloquent fashion, it's also about having actual musical skills. Does anybody have any questions here? Feel free to unmute yourselves and ask them. Nope. All right. Once, going twice. All right. So that is something that I want you guys to understand, right? This is, you will be frustrated. You will be mad. You will be doubting yourselves. Why are you doing this to yourself? Well, because if what you see yourself as musicians is what's guiding your life, then you have to really learn how to do this thing and how to learn it properly. And we can do that for you. All right. So moving on, really sort of very quickly, I do want to read the student learning goals. Actually, why, Leah, would you start us with the first learning goal, please? Thank you.
Be able to identify musical styles of many different styles and eras, their likely composers, and their stylistic idioms.
Stylistic idioms, yeah, thank you. So one of the things that if you are a music educator specifically, one of the things that happens in the professional world, you have to take a New York State certified test to become a certified teacher in school. one of the components of that examination is to identify if this piece that you're hearing is high polyphony Renaissance or is a late 17th century fugue. You don't need to know right now what that is because that's what you're coming to school. So that's one thing that you will be able to understand and perform. So all of you have to do recitals, and not only you will be in your comfort zone of if it's classical music or gospel or whatever, but also in idioms, stylistic idioms that you don't know, like 16th century Italian song, right? So that's something that we're going to do. Let me ask, sorry, Mr. Preach, I did not catch your name, but if you could read the second student learning goal for me, that'll be great.
Where am I reading from?
Right here, and tell me your name again, by the way.
Chris, but everybody calls me Preach.
Oh, cool. Can I call you Preach?
By all means.
All right, Preach, go for it.
Number 2, become familiar with the repertoire of each style and period in question pertaining to each areas of study for the relevant section of L&M.
Yeah. So this first section of L&M, what that means is that each section of L&M will study a particular period of history. Thank you, Preach, by the way. This particular period is the contemporary sort of issues that we're going through right now, but also we're going to take a look at like the sort of quote unquote beginning. Like there is no beginning of music. Let me just tell you, there is no such thing as like, and at the beginning it was silence. Like that is actually true for the religious affiliation that we have, but it's not true for music. We don't know where it comes from. And we will talk about how it is then that we decided what the quote-unquote beginning of music is. That will become a bit later in the semester, but one of the things that I want you to understand is that in Western music, which is what we're going to study more in depth, and we are part of Western society, in Western music, there are periods like kind of very clearly defined, even if that's not entirely true. We'll talk about that. I love to debunk historical myths, by the way. That's like I have a thing for that. But that's what it means. So we will pay special attention in element 2, 3, and 4, which is Baroque, Romantic, and 20th century music. Those are the big 3 periods that you will be expected to know about. So that's something for you guys to know. Let me see, Tash Tucker. Tash, are you there?
Yep.
Tash, could you read for us student learning goal number 3?
Okay. Be able to write an abstract of an individually or selected musical topic. IL stands for 2-5D.
Thank you. Don't worry about those things. So by the way, all those right-hand columns, at the end of this document, you could see what the alignments of the globally engaged and the other stuff that we do is. It's a little bit too technical for this conversation, but number 3, it's kind of what both Dr. Franson and I were talking about in writing. So do we know what an abstract is? An abstract is basically a summary, as it were, of an academic paper, or that you are going to either, present in writing or do a presentation of. So basically, you have 250 words. Tell us something interesting about what's coming to your writing. That's some good skill right there. Let's see participants. Okay, I have Leah Scott and Leah Kelly. Leah Kelly, did you go yet for number 3?
Yeah, I went, but I can go again.
Okay, so actually, since you already went, then let's ask Leah Scott. Leah Scott, are you there? Leah Scott? We can't hear you. That's so weird.
Hold on, let me see. No, I feel like it should work.
Okay, yeah, sorry. The headset seems to be giving you some.
Yeah, I took it off. I'm just gonna. You said number
fine.
3?
Yeah, let me. Where did it go? Here we go. Yeah, number 3. And then I'll
Okay.
change the page when the time comes.
Okay. Develop an understanding of the historical context of each relevant musical era. The student will be able to discuss the musical genres and music styles with
Drum roll. Associations.
with associations and parallel trends in art, politics, and technology.
Cool. So basically, how do we tie the historical aspects of music to our contemporary lives, and why is it good for? That's the point. Like, I want you guys to not take this for granted. Like, I want you guys to ask always, like, why am I learning this? But not in like, oh my God, why am I learning this? But like, serious, like, ask the serious question. What is this good for? And hopefully we will bridge that together. And by the way, together, I mean it together, because I mean, I'm a little bit ahead of you guys, but I'm not. And no one is like really like ahead of anybody. So we build this together. And finally, let me ask Kiana Swan, would you read the last student goal for me, number 5?
Yeah. Retrieve information in a variety of formats.
Yeah, that was easy, wasn't it? This is actually quite important for such a brief statement. When you, like, music theory is abstract. It's like math, but it's easier, I promise you. It's like if you can count up to 8, and then if you can count half steps and whole steps, that's most of what you will do. But it is a form of information that is not written out for you, right? So, for instance, you will be confronted with a staff and 2 notes and a line underneath, and it would say, provide the name of the interval. That is the only information that you have. You have something that is completely abstract and a question. So if you don't know, I mean, and right now you don't have to read staff notation. We will get there, and ear training is going to get you there. But if it kind of passes you by, and you don't understand what an interval is, you don't understand what the bass clef is, you don't understand what a major second is compared to a minor second, or an augmented second and a minor third, those of you who speak this language, then, we will have to work out harder on this. But that's the kind of information we're retrieving. Now imagine writing a paper about it. Writing a paper about, I don't know, the stylistic uses of minor seconds in contemporary gospel, of which I'm sure there are papers on, right? So these are important things that we reckon will get you to what you need to be. So I want you guys to get excited about this. All right, thank you everyone who participated. Any questions about your learning goals? Anything you want to add, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them by all means. I'm going to fetch now the next part of the syllabus. I don't know what happened to Dr. Franson. I'm gonna text him. We'll have backup here.
I'm still here.
Oh.
So I'm there. It's just that my screen has obviously it only has the syllabus on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't see your picture. That's why. Okay, cool.
Right.
All right. So, Lars, would you like to add anything else at all?
No, I think we should just hum along. Really, I think it's very, very good to go through the syllabus. Hold on one second. Mm-hmm. This is rude. Now I have my camera on. Can you see me now, Carlos?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, and you can all hear me, I'm sure. So I think it's good to go through the syllabus once and for all. And since it's been recorded, I mean, there are things that are not so good about this situation, but there are also things I have to say that are a lot better in having to do it this way, because the students, even let's say you're prohibited from participating in a class, you can always go back. And by the way, our plan is to post all of these presentations, lessons, whatever you want to call them. They're being recorded to the cloud, and then they're going to be shared on YouTube. We're going to send you the link to the channel that's going to pertain to this class, so you can always go back and sort of scroll through the lesson and say, okay, I didn't understand this. Let me go back and do it again. I mean, you have to understand, of course, that we're doing this in real time. We're not editing these videos, so that you know, you have to understand that that's a completely different skill. It's almost like performing live or performing in the studio, where you can edit and go back and do it, and take 432 is the one you're going to keep. This is different because it happens right now, and it's very real. It's just that we're doing it through screens by necessity. But I think there are good things about that. Okay, so I'll mute again.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Franson. So here is the part of the syllabus that it's kind of like a bit of a drag, but we gotta say it because not only the syllabus is our promise to you, but it's also the contract between students and faculty. And it kind of boils down to participation. And we cannot stress this enough, that the only way for you to succeed in this class is to participate. Like, if our generosity of putting these videos up in on YouTube is only for your own benefit and not to replace the live classroom. So I want you guys to have that really clear, that not because you watch the YouTube video means that you were in class, right? Like, that shouldn't be said, but as it's said. So participation.
Yeah, can I add one more thing to that? There's going to be written work required every week, not heaps of it, because it's, you know, homework is not, hold on. I got my video on. Homework is not a punishment. It's just a reinforcement of the lessons that we're trying to make you learn. One thing about notation, I want to say this very clearly. If you, let's say you've done some professional work in a studio, you will know probably that the higher the level of musicians you're working with, the more notation you're going to be dealing with. Let's say you're hired as the keyboard player for, you know, somebody like Aretha Franklin. No, she's no longer, but that's not the point, because we've actually had her entire backup band as students here at one point or another. You're not going to rehearse with her band members for 2 weeks before you go on tour. You're actually going to be called in very often the night before you have your first show in Berlin, and you're going to be reading from the charts. And the same thing in the recording world. If you can't read, you are significantly limited. It's not that you can't have a music career if you can't read. It's just that you can't get the very best work and the best paid work. And that's something that we're going to be talking about, some very practical considerations that you actually have to be aiming your career if you want to make a living from it. I mean, it's all good to have music as a hobby. I mean, nobody is ever preventing anyone from doing that. I mean, you can, if you own a guitar, you're a guitarist, but per definition. But that doesn't mean that somebody's going to pay you to play for them. Even if you're very good at it, it doesn't mean that either necessarily. But all the skills from which you can make money, and enough money to pay your rent or send your kids to school, et cetera, or just surviving in New York, there's sometimes skills that people don't really know when they start out in the business, and they wish they had known 10 years earlier. And we're here to sort of break this down for you to say, okay, listen, if you can get a gig, let's say 3 nights a week, and you get $250 for a gig, that ain't gonna pay your rent. Unfortunately, that's just a fact of life. So you've got to come up with a plan B or C and D and make them all sort of stick together, and make sure that you're not gone every night of the week, because your spouse is not going to like that. Your kids are not going to like you much either. So what you have to understand when you're reading all this is that the homework and the breaking down of all the skills that we need you to learn are not to punish you. And it's certainly not because we have nothing better to do than to terrorize undergraduate students in music. It's not for that reason. It's just because we know where the money is, as Bing Crosby famously said. We know where the skills are that can get you to that point where you can actually make a living from being a musician. In other words, you can be a professional musician. That is not as easy as some people might think. And it involves skills other than just being very good at singing, or very good at playing the keyboard, or very good at playing the drums or whatever. Sure, we can all point to one of the examples where somebody had just one freak skill and it was enough. Well, you're not that person, because if you were, you wouldn't be in school. You would be out there playing on stage every night. And you're not, and we're not either. I mean, we have put our lives together in different ways. Some of that involves teaching because we want to pass this legacy on to other students, and we want to tell them the truth about the profession. And for some of us, I certainly know that that's the truth for the two teachers you're going to be dealing with in this course. We also love to teach. For me personally, because I learn a lot from teaching. I was on, because I teach at CUNY as well. Dr. Carlos does too, by the way. We both teach at Brooklyn College, and we share some students and some classes in addition. So yesterday I was teaching from about 10 in the morning till about 9 at night, with no break at all. And no matter how you slice that, that is a long day and all that. But I felt at the end of the day that I'd learned so much because I got 2 new students that are really, really great players, like Carlos was, like other students have been before him, etc. And when you teach students like that, you're really learning a lot, and you have to bring on your A game. So teaching, I mean, look, Bach was a teacher, Beethoven was a teacher. He was a terrible teacher, but he taught nevertheless. Mozart was a teacher, Franz Liszt. Many of these names may not ring a bell for you right now, but what I'm saying is that teaching has always been a part of the métier of being a musician. It's been part of the craft, part of the thing we do. And to that end, we need a language developed and some professional skill sets, basically. But that's no different to if you work in a kitchen, for instance. You have to know the difference between a ladle and a pot spoon. You have to know the difference between a fillet knife and a steak knife, etc. And you have to know which end to hold the knife, otherwise you'll get injured. You won't have much productivity there. So for all professions, a set of professional tools go along with this, and that's what we're breaking down here, and that's actually what we're discussing here. And that's why in the next, I can see the the ominous heading here, attendance, punctuality, and missing work. Well, guess what? If you're late to a studio recording, you will not get invited again. If you're late to a performance, you will not perform again with that setting. And the higher up you go in the hierarchy, the more well-paid the work is, the more this matters. So it is a thing. It's not just to treat you like a child and say, okay, we're back to high school. No, we're not. We actually, nobody's forcing you ever to go to university. And nobody is forcing you to do a music degree. As a matter of fact, in my own opinion, if you're crazy enough to do a music degree and crazy enough to aim for a career as a professional musician, you probably deserve a medal up front and a ticket to a mental institution. But that's just my private view. But what I know goes into creating such a career is that we are always impeccably prepared and on time, no matter what you do. And I'll get off my soapbox now and mute my microphone.
Thank you, Ned. Well, the thing is that I, as your student, I can say that is half the gig, more than half the gig. You show up on time, well dressed, with your parts. Period. Full stop. If you don't get paid, and I haven't. I mean, you get paid. I've been on the receiving end of this. Like, I haven't been called back for some gigs, and that's not nice, right? So avoid that. In that regard, let me just very quickly go through this. Red box participation in class is helpful for demonstrating understanding of course concepts. Self-explanatory. Participation includes engaging in class discussions, on live sessions, as well as online discussion boards. For synchronous sections, students are not required to turn their cameras on, so you guys are not required to have them on. You're adults. You behave the way you want to behave. But I really encourage you to do so. It's a small enough classroom. We can all interact and we feed off each other's, not energy, I guess, but facial expressions. Your success in this class depends heavily on your active participation in and outside the classroom. We cannot emphasize how essential your attention and enthusiasm are to your success. Full participation points, 10% of your grade, that's a full letter grade, I think, will be entered in the grade book each week. Lateness, absent, and regularly disengaged behavior, like texting, working on projects or on classwork, or not asking any questions, will reduce participation points to 5 points to 0 points. So that's our ways to keep you guys accountable. Let me get another participant is in, I suppose. Okay, moving on. Attendance, punctuality, and missing work. Students are expected to attend every synchronous lesson at that time. We will try to hold synchronous lessons as much as we can if it makes sense for us to do a little bit asynchronous as well. Is everyone clear, by the way, what synchronous and asynchronous is? Very quickly, synchronous is real time. Asynchronous, we record a video, upload it, and tell you to do the work pertaining to that. So participation in online discussion will count towards students' attendance when that is the case. So that the asynchronous is the case. In the unusual event that an absence is unavoidable, it is the student's responsibility to obtain the relevant notes, materials, videos, and recordings from a fellow student. You can totally email us, being like, hey, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. What did we do today? But don't expect us to Dr. Franz and myself, to redo the lesson for you, right? Like, at the end of the day, the burden of responsibility weighs heavy on you. If you really want to catch up, if you really want to do the right thing, you tell us, you apologize for not being there, and go about retrieving the information. I cannot stress this enough that adding responsibility to the professors, it's not a professional way of behavior. So if you can't make it for some reason, we're happy to help you, but also it's not our responsibility to completely catch you up. Okay, so please read this on your own time. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Unless there is anything else, Lars, that you want to talk about this punctuality and missing work, I should move on to the requirements of the class, and I think that should probably do it for today.
Yeah, please do that. And after we're done with the syllabus, we should get back to the screen where we can see each other and just wrap it up. Because I think also, I think students are more apt to ask questions if they can see their fellow students and our faces too. So let's go ahead.
Let's just wrap it up then in the syllabus part. So there will be a required time paper. It will be about 1,500 to 2,000 word paper. That's not huge, double space, whatever. I mean, I'm very anal about formatting, but this is not the moment to do it. It will be about music, it will be about history, it will be about culture. I'm interested in how you understand the world and the history of the world rather than you telling me what the book said, because guess what? You see all this? I've read it, all of them, by the way. So I know what the books say. So I'm interested in how you back up your arguments. Then the requirements for the paper are there. Don't worry about the Chicago style. I will go over that and give you guys all the love of formatting your bibliography and citations. Last thing that is worth telling you guys is that do not plagiarize. For those of you who don't know what plagiarism is, it's basically appropriating somebody else's intellectual work. And if you think it's bad that, I don't know, celebrities copy and paste their tweets or Instagram stories and make it as their own, imagine when like it's a whole book or a whole essay. And here's the thing. Because you're submitting your work through E360, E360 is connected with something that you may know about Turnitin. Turnitin is a software that basically runs every paper, like the paper you write with the cloud, and the cloud has like most of the published work, and it will realize, we don't even have to read it as faculty to realize that you're cheating. Like, technology does it for us. We'll still read it, of course. But so don't do it, because you are more than welcome to use people's work. Just cite it, and we'll talk about that. Take a look at the grading scale. It's rather generous, I believe, but just take a look at it on your own time. If you have any questions, let us know. And then as far as, so this is actually it. Unless, Lars, you want to talk about the overview of the course, I think we've done that already. So maybe we just wrap up the syllabus and go back to our screens.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, let me add one more thing. This is your chance to really learn how to write in a good and professional manner. That is a skill that I can promise you will stand you in good stead all the way through your whatever you want to do with yourselves. It's a great skill, And especially if you have something to communicate to other people. If you have strong opinions, you've got to find a strong way to communicate that. And people will take you much more seriously, no matter what you have to say. They will take you much more seriously if you can present yourself in a way that is considered professional. And we will give you the tools. We have slightly different emphases in our studies, Carlos and I, but we are both excellent writers, and we've learned the things that will make people pay attention to you in the future. So this is a great opportunity to really learn that skill in addition to all the music stuff that we're going to be learning that through the music stuff. But do you understand what I'm trying to say here? That especially if you have really strong opinions, you cannot afford to leave those strong opinions lying on the floor because you can't communicate them in an effective way. You deserve better than that. You have to give to yourself this skill of being able to communicate in an effective way. We may all have opinions about, I certainly have my opinions about how communication is done on the academic level. And some of it I may not like, or I may disagree with it, but I know what it is, and I know how to play the game, so to speak. And you have to know it too. Not everything in life is designed the way that we would like it. That's just a fact. But knowing how the game is played and what will take you to your destination, no matter what that is, that's the real skill of having a university degree that means something. And I can promise you one thing, we're always going to be honest with you. We're going to be very, very helpful because people were helpful to us. We've had a lot of help, a lot of mentors, and a lot of people who sat us down and said, look, this is the way it's done. Do it this way, not because you agree with it necessarily, but because that's the way it's done. Just learn that way, and knowing that if you want to achieve this goal, this is how to achieve it. That may not always be what we want to hear, but college ideally is that tough parent that we have chosen ourselves to teach us the lessons that we never learned at the right time, if you know what I mean. Because at this point in your life, or in our lives, we're all adults. Nobody's going to do it for us. It's just the way it is, and we have to learn. If there's a new skill, let's say I'm not very good at some computer software, I just have to learn it myself because there's nobody there to do it, to learn it for me. There are many skills. You can't just say, go to that restaurant and taste that meal for me. That's not the way it works. There's certain things where we have to, to learn to swim, you have to jump in the water. To make an omelet, you have to break an egg, right? There's so many skills where we simply just have to get involved and just do it. Writing is one such skill. You can't just sit, it's like, or courage, let's say. You don't sit in your comfortable sofa and collect courage and then you go out and conquer the world. It's not the way it works. You simply just have to jump in the deep end and learn to swim as you're doing it because of necessity. And that's what music was for many of us. It was our tool of survival in some ways, right? It was the way that we can communicate with the world. We could engage with all the things that didn't make sense to us at certain points in our lives. And music was there to help us out, creating that link, that communication to other people. And I can assure you, almost no matter how you would think about this, somebody has thought similar thoughts to the ones you have right now and have thought about ways of getting there. That's what we're here for. All right, Carlos.
All right, so I would like to encourage you guys to, I guess this is a good time to start thinking of wrapping up our first meeting. We usually will go a bit longer than this. We're supposed to go until 1, but as a first meeting in a pandemic-ridden world through online technology, this is a good time to sort of come to an end to the meeting, but I don't want to leave before hearing from you, whether it is a question, a concern, a word of encouragement to your fellow students, something that will bring us together as the community that we are trying to be, and then we sort of let the class go for today. One at a time, too.
Yeah, the floor is open, so give us your thoughts. Give us your feedback. What is on your mind right now?
I have a question. When do we look out for work that you guys will be providing for us on E360?
Sarah, that's a great question. I think, let me address this. We have all your emails on file. So the E360 is our sort of gathering point, you see? And I think as soon as we've uploaded this to YouTube, and as soon as we have links to provide, we will send them to you through E360 email. It's just the most, I think, resourceful way of doing it. So always check your E360 email, please.
Yeah, and in addition, everything that is uploaded, I will also create an announcement for the course. So you will have two ways of knowing what it is. One is through the announcement section. The other one is through your email. Since I never used E360 as a student, I don't know when did you get all the announcements, all the announcement that I made as an alert, or you just saw it on the course's homepage?
You
Sarah.
just see it as like a thing.
Right, so you don't get an alert
No,
that something's
you have
been
to log in and then notice your messages.
Okay, so that's cool. I'll still put the announcement and send an email because working twice it's sometimes what you need to do. But for instance, right now there is a very short assignment that I created for reading comprehension on the E360. So I'll send an announcement and I'll send an email as Dr. Franson suggested, and then we'll take it from there.
I think also, if I can add to that, I think also you can all hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think you can also set your alert settings because to advise you if there's a new email on E360, because it should be as best, again, the same here, that I don't get student E360 emails. So I'm sometimes unaware of what the screen looks like or what the line of communication is from the other end from the students. But I believe you can certainly set your alert settings because it should be linked with your Nyack College email address. And you can set that on your phone, for instance, if there's any new emails coming in. I mean, as we know, we get sort of 120 alerts every day, but you can prioritize them and some of the other. But check in every day. It's almost like it's the safest thing to do. Just check for the course if there's any new emails, you know, asking you to do something or offering you some link that you can go on.
Great question, Sarah. Thank you. Yeah, Leah?
I had a question about your all's preferred like document method. Like, what do you guys use, like Google Docs or a Microsoft? Like, would we turn it in through files through E360? Like a link?
For my end, you will always have a textbook within E360, a text box within E360 to put your text in. So I encourage you to use whatever word processor you use, Google Docs or Word. And once you're done with your document, just copy the text and paste it onto E360 and submit it through it, as opposed to giving me a link or an upload.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So that's for the history section that I'm in charge of. That I prefer. I don't know, Lars, what you.
Well, I mean, the default program is Microsoft. You know, so anything Microsoft. I mean, unfortunately, you can't use Pages, for instance, which is the Apple equivalent. I prefer Apple products myself. You know, so because I think they're easier to use and they're more intuitive and all that. But I mean, I have all the Microsoft things. It's just that Apple and Microsoft are like dog and cat, right? I mean, they don't want to work together. But the tools they're giving us from the college is actually iPads, which is Apple. I never really quite understood that, but that's fine. So when we get to that, submit it the best way. Actually, as far as your music theory written assignments are concerned, the method that I actually think is the fairest one to everyone, because for instance, I don't have a computer. I mean, I do it in my office right here. You can see that's my computer, right? I don't want to have a computer at home, so I have an iPad, and there's a limit to what you can do on an iPad, for instance. So one of the things that I've done with people is that if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, that still works. And if you had lined paper, even better. You can submit your written assignments by simply just filling them out on a piece of paper, snapping a photo with your cell phone, and sending it to me. Just text it to me. You know, that is the easy, and I know that every single student that I've ever dealt with can do that. So that's the thought. I think the most democratic way of doing it, rather than learning to use some software, you know, that's all cool. You know, you can do that if you want, but if you can't do that, for instance, I still, not because I'm old, that I am. Well, you know how old I am, 35 plus and other, you know, multiple of that. But I still prefer, because it's much quicker for me, I still prefer to write in hand. It's much, much quicker than going on to some fancy dancy program and I have to instruct the cursor how to do this, that, and the other. And then it says that you can't do this rhythm because we won't let you do it. That to me is not what I want really. When I usually I finish an assignment in less than a minute and I write it out. I have really, really good manuscript, and I sometimes I have a way that I can program it into a program that translates it to print for me. But most of the time, I actually don't even bother with that because my handwriting is completely legible, and I send it to the students, and they'll say, "Okay, cool, I can read it," and send it back. They snap a photo and they send it back, no problem.
Do you have a phone number that you would like us to text this things to?
I think it's actually in the syllabus, but you can all take it now, and we can.
I don't think it is. I think I took it off because I'm smart like that.
My cell number, if you want to take it, but I can post it as well. My cell
put
number.
it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, cool. I'll do that.
So 2 ways of checking work, presenting your work to us. One, the theory component through Lars, the way he just described it. And for me, everything on E360. But again, all communications will come through E360, especially right at the beginning, right? Once we develop our own system, then we'll go with that. But for now, we centralize it like that. And then we'll take the phone number is up in the chat already, so take a second, everybody, and make sure you store it.
Yeah, it's often the best way to get in touch with me. I know some professors don't like to be bothered by text, but sometimes, let's say I'm on the road, and sometimes, well, actually most of the time, I don't have sort of flawless internet connection. So I work a lot from my phone. Sometimes when I used to take the subway, right now we're actually cycling to school to avoid the subway and the contagions that could be there. But in the past, in the many, many years I've been teaching at NIAC, I always grade my paper on the subway on the way home. And that means that I have to have cell phone access to the student assignments. And a picture is just much, much, much easier. It's much quicker. It's the best way to get, the quickest way to get in touch with me is just to shoot me a text. Tell me who you are so I can enter into my address book if it's the first time, do you see? You know, and sometimes the spam filters will actually, you know, not get the message to me. But that is the quickest way to get in touch with me. Other professors have their own preferences. But right now, I think we've got to go with the bush tools, as I call them. You know, if you're in the desert and you have to repair your Jeep, you know, you need a hammer and a screwdriver, and you have to be able to fix a lot of things with a hammer and a screwdriver. What happened last semester, because the whole pandemic just happened right in the middle of the semester. And actually what I did was that I was coaching some of my students through on FaceTime. They simply turned their cell phone camera onto their piece of paper, and I was guiding their pen as they were writing across the paper. And it was quite wild, in fact, because some of them were in the middle of this calamity of losing family members. And many of you, I assume, have probably been in the same position. And they're trying to finish their college degree. It wasn't pretty, but we got there in the end, you know. So I think the cell phone is the one piece the one tool that we probably all have in common one way or another, no matter what platform we use.
Oh, excellent. So are there any other questions? Thank you, Sarah and Leah. Those were really good questions. Anybody else has any other concerns or comments or questions about how to get in touch with us, how to upload stuff, or where to find things, or, I don't know, a word of encouragement? We all got this type of situation. Yeah?
You can do it.
Thank you. I hope we can. No, I'm sure we can. I'm sure we will. It will be fun. So, you know, I guess that's it for me. I hope that you guys are encouraged to get through this the right way. And one piece of advice that I got as a student was that the people around you and whom you create bonds with are going to be probably your professional acquaintances, if not friends, almost for the rest of your lives. So make sure you're, like, this is a professional setting. In undergrad, it goes particularly true for student mentor relationships. We are in this together, so let's do that. All right.
So let me call Chris, Mr. Preach. Could you give us a sort of closing prayer, just a little word of encouragement from God Almighty Himself?
Preach.
Yes, sir. I get that joke a lot, actually.
You never, yeah, I was gonna say you never heard that one.
All right, here we go. Father God, in the name of Jesus, Lord, we thank you for your goodness, your mercy, and your grace. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to see another day, Lord, giving us another opportunity to get it right. Lord, we thank you for the ability to gather together on Zoom, to have our first meeting, to be able to go over the syllabus, to be able to meet each other, meet our instructors. Lord, we ask that as this class concludes, Lord, we ask that you be with us. Lord, we ask that you protect us. Lord, we ask that you guide us and bring us back together at the appointed time. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
Amen.
Okay, I think we're good. Let's meet on Monday again, yeah? And we will be posting this, and absolutely we hold on, I just have to answer one question here. That's it. I'm not good at multitasking, I think. But anyway, guys, great to meet you guys, and we are here to help you. The most important thing is to communicate. If there's a problem, let us know ahead of time. Don't think that, oh, I'm just going to sneak this under the radar and all that. No, address the problem right away. That's the way to solve problems, okay? All right, love you all, and see you Monday, okay?
See you Monday, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.